I'm Jessica Grant, and welcome to Now What, a podcast all about parenting. For those of you who don't know me, I am Jessica Grant. I'm a pediatrician on the Upper West Side of Manhattan at Manhattan Valley Pediatrics. I'm also a mom to a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. And when I was given the chance to host this podcast, I jumped at the chance because I think parenting is hard and anything we can do to help each other is worth it. I'm one of those strange people who likes feeling like I'm down in the trenches, in medical school and residency, doing something really hard with my fellow support system. And I look at parenting as the same. If we can support each other through this war zone, it makes it way more fun and way more manageable. And that's how I came to be doing this. Tonight's podcast is a little bit of a different kind than we've done so far. I'm pretty excited. So far, we've done a lot of medically type things, so feeding and reading and sleeping. And tonight is more about being a working parent and how to balance that and how it feels for us. My partners and I had previously been at a practice that was owned by a hospital, which was really great, and we learned a lot. But we ended up going out on our own and starting a private practice. We opened in April of 2020, but the workings for that began about 1.5 years earlier. And I was told by my partners, basically, we are going to start a private practice and leave where we are, and you can join us or not. I was on maternity leave when this happened. I had a 1-month-old baby and felt very ambivalent about starting a private practice, and don't know if I would have actually done it had I not been given that push by my partners. And it sounded like a lot of work, taking care of a newborn, taking care of my older child, and having in my own practice. And it is a lot of work. In the end, I'm incredibly glad I did it. It's a ton of fun. It's a very successful practice, and it challenges a whole different part of my brain. But it has been an interesting balancing act to say, I have a new baby, basically, my practice. And how do I fit that into my existing babies, my 2 kids who matter to me? And how do I make room for everybody here? And how do I feel like I'm doing any of this adequately enough? And those challenges I still struggle with, although, the more you do it, I think the easier it gets. And so I'm really excited to talk to another mom who has been through this and started her own practice and balances that with her kids at home. And her practice is incredibly successful. Tonight, we're going to speak with Maegan Woodin of Juliette and Ella's Playdate. And she has grown a massive business during this time. She's a co-founder and has a really interesting business model. And talking with her before this, it was really interesting to hear how she manages to offset the amount of work that the job is with taking care of her children and kind of marry those two things. And so I'm excited, and hopefully you guys will get something interesting out of this as well. In terms of the format, I'm going to start by speaking with Maegan, and I have a few questions I want to run by her, a few thoughts, some things about business, some things about being a working mom, some things about things we like to do in the city. We're both on the Upper West Side, and what's that's like. And then if there are any questions, I'll throw it open for questions, and we'll go from there. So I hope this is a fun, comfortable setting for everybody. And without further ado, here's Maegan.
Hi, thanks, Jessica. My name is Maegan Woodin, and I'm the co-founder of Juliette and Ella's Playdate. And we do music and movement classes all throughout the city. And we do stuff upstate and in Westchester seasonally, in the Hamptons as well. And my business partner, Sarah Post-Brummer, and I met when our little babies, who are now 7, which is crazy, they were 5 months old. We met right here on 80th and Broadway in the dead of winter. And I had this idea for a business, and I needed the support of another person. And I also loved Sarah. I loved Juliette. And I was like, I think we should start a class. I think we should start a business. And she thought I was crazy. And I sort of was. And I said, I think we should start baby ballet. And she also said that was something that no one in the city really wanted to do. I mean, ballet was for older kids. Why are babies doing ballet? And I said, I think the cutest thing that parents want to see is their little 3-4 month old in a tutu dancing and sort of learning some ballet steps. So we started the class when our kids were 8 months old, and the business sort of just grew rapidly. We had a really awesome support system of parents and moms who took our class, who helped with our first business cards and our logo and showed up at every single class. And we used to take our girls with us to every single class for years. We couldn't afford a babysitter. We were like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it together with our kids. So since then, our classes sort of morphed into music and movement classes, a little more inclusive of everyone. We do music and ballet. We started a new class this fall called musical acrotats, and it's AKA Carter's Playdate, which is my middle son, who is full of energy and sort of needed an acro, like jumping spots and, do cartwheels in the middle of class if you want sort of class. So that class is named after him. And then we also do like strict ballet classes up until like around age 6 and 7. In addition to that, we also have created this like big birthday party company, and we do music and movement sets for parties, but we also have added on a whole costume layer. So we will do any princess that you could possibly imagine for the party. And we also have done balloons balloons and face painting. And the business just keeps growing. As our kids get older and as we sort of creatively need to expand, we do that. So it's been quite a journey, and I'm really excited to see what happens next.
That's awesome. So do you want to tell us a little bit, just for people who don't know your classes, how long they are, how often people tend to come to them? Is it kind of once a week?
Sure.
That kind of structure, just so our viewers know what you offer.
Yeah, we do. Our classes are around 40 minutes in length, 40 to 45 minutes. And they're right now, a lot of them are done outside in the parks. So we started in the parks, and then during COVID, we sort of moved our business back into Central Park and Riverside Park and Sutton Place Park and all over the city, using the great outdoors as our, studio. So people just bring a blanket, and we provide like all of the shakers and scarves and puppets and drums and tambourines and, we sort of have like an explosion of props, which keep kids really engaged the entire time. Our class is based on a semester, but you can also drop in to class as well, which we as moms found super important. I think it grew our business a lot in the beginning because as moms ourselves, we were very cautious to sign up for like a whole package, which costs hundreds of dollars, and you're afraid your child won't like it, or they'll sleep through it. So we were like, it's okay, just drop in whenever you feel like. So I think that business model in the beginning really helped to grow and also create like an awesome community of moms.
Yeah. Tell me about the community. Is it mostly people, once you have somebody, in your system, do they tend to stay there once you kind of capture them? Do parents tend to get to know each other through you guys? What do you
Yeah, I would say, it's funny, if I have the best of friends from this business, Sarah and I would teach class together with our kids, and then we'd sort of hang out in the park, and people were like, oh, like you guys are friends, like, can we chat? And so they would stay. And our class was named Juliette Playdate because we really wanted people to stick around and play and to get to know each other and sort of talk and hang out. So that was the premise around it. And currently, I feel like we get babies into the class, and then they sort of grow with us. And my light just went out. And they grow with us, and they continue through their birthday parties. We'll do like a lot of their birthday parties. They have a second child or a third child, and they'll bring their kids to our parties. So it's great. I feel like we get the kid when they're 3 months old, and then, they graduate with us at like around 6 or 7. So
I think it's so nice for parents too, though. I remember when I had my first, I was kind of late among my friend group to have kids. So I didn't really know a lot of people with babies. And I remember I'm going to go to a lactation class just because I need to meet moms who are like have babies and willing to speak to me and understand that I like smell like breast milk and I'm tired. And so I think that's so nice, the community aspect that people get there. And can you talk, I know there's some things you do in terms of developmental stimulation for the young babies. There's some sign language things you incorporate. As a pediatrician, I'm interested in kind of some of those things that you work towards.
Yeah, in our class, we give them lots of props, and I feel like our welcome song encourages waving, and they hear their name over and over again. And we throw balls out at one point in the middle of class, which encourages crawling, and we really concentrate on number recognition and color recognition, and then also just repetition in general. We repeat songs over and over again for the kids to grow confidence and be able to recognize, and then eventually be able to sing them themselves. We also do sign language in all of our classes. Sarah, my business partner, she did a lot of sign language with her daughter when she was a baby. And so she sort of helped incorporate that in a lot of our classes, which was great. We work on, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. We do beautiful sign language to that. And it's really great because the parents, I feel, are super receptive and they love to sign along with us. So I feel like it's not just for the babies, although sign language, helps developmentally, it helps to communicate with the parents. But I think that the parents are also learning with us. And I think they're taking it home and incorporating it into their children. Routines. We work on like saying please and can you help me, like clean up all of our props. And my daughter who's 7, she comes to class and she sort of is doing all the signs because she's sort of aged out of doing all the, shaking your shaker to like twist again. And she wants to like learn sign language now. So I'll see her, very quietly, but she's like doing all the signs. So, it's a different language. So we're, encouraging them to learn a language and learn it with their body. And during our class, it's all movement based. So everything is just getting the kids up and moving. And it's really fun. It's fun.
Awesome. How do you think your class is differentiated from other, toddler-ish classes on the Upper West Side?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of super fabulous classes where someone brings a guitar and sings all the favorites. I think our class is different because we don't have a guitarist. So if you're on a guitar, you're pretty stationary, you're pretty stuck to that instrument. And it is super awesome to hear a live guitarist play, but they're not showing you how to move to the music as well. So our class is really, we have a backtrack to the music and we just sort of groove and move like the entire class. And it's sort of, as my dad would call it, he calls it like a mini Broadway show. He's like our biggest fan. And he's like, how was the show today? So I feel like it's showy, but it also encourages the kids to like come up on our little, like, we don't have a stage, we're in the park, but come up to the front and dance with us. So I think that that's different than a lot of classes because we don't want people to sit down. We want them to move around. And when we first started the class, actually, we'd have a lot of parents like holding their kids down, which I thought was so interesting because I think in other classes, they want you to sort of like sit in your little designated spot and we're listening to music and we can practice clapping and, raising our arms up, but stay seated. And I think our class was the complete opposite. We were like, no, like come up, grab our props. Like we want you to take this and we'll share. And we want you to like dance with us and let's all march around the room together. So when like someone new comes to an indoor location, I think it's always fascinating that I think because of COVID now we all sort of stand back, but people still are hesitant to let their kids like go up and crawl and, come sit in the teacher's lap and grab a puppet. And how about you do Old MacDonald with the cow puppet today? So I think our class is different in that way because we just love, it's all movement. It's all getting up and moving.
I remember my second taking her to a music class and everyone's sitting in this nice little circle and she was like across the room under the piano that was not for that class, by the way, she happened to be in the space and being mortified. Like, why is she not sitting here? And so I can totally see how allowing them that freedom goes into what they naturally want to do, right? And capturing them at their best versus trying to pin them down for their worst.
Pin them down.
Parents come down.
Yeah, this is a music class. My business partner, Sarah, her daughter was sort of the complete opposite of Ella, my daughter. My daughter would like sit and she'd be like the perfect music class, like sit on your little spot. And Juliette was like, now is like my son Carter, who likes to jump, and she would be like running around, and we would take the girls before we started class to different classes, and Juliette would like be out the door in a matter of like 10 seconds. And Sarah was like, okay, I gotta go. Like, there's no way she would come back to class. And so our motto for like a good while was, if Juliette can stay in class, anyone can. The class is a success. So I feel like, when we have our teachers teach, we're like, if you can keep the most distracted or rambunctious kid involved, then you're like, the class is going to be great. So yeah, we love kids who just run and play and jump and do what kids are supposed to do, which is not really listen.
And it's funny because that child, my second, who's the problem child, now she's 4 and she's in preschool, and she still has that. She's still out of her seat, like looking to see what the tarantula is doing in there. They have a pet tarantula in school.
Yeah.
But now it's like applauded. She's kind of leading the class, and she's
Mhm.
but when she was 1, it felt so not applauded. And so,
Yeah.
something that should be punished. And so it's nice to hear that there are classes that will embrace that side of them, which I found kind of hard with her.
Yeah. I mean, if a kid is like chucking balls at other kids, there's like super creative ways to intervene and be like, oh, so good. Like, how about we try rolling the ball? Like, how about we do like a straddle to each other and like roll the ball back and forth? So I think there's a creative way. And, I struggle with my middle child too, but creative way to like channel the energy that they feel. So we have created this class that I think helps to allow people to be free and, learn a lot as well, obviously, but just have the best time, to create so much joy. That's what we like to bring.
So, I love hearing about your classes, and I know that you guys have grown them so amazingly, but if it's okay with you, I'd love to talk a little bit about just what it is to be a mom who has a business and what that kind of balance looks like. So, so maybe starting with, were you apprehensive? Because when you started this, you had a 5-month-old. So it's kind of similar to when I started my practice, and, we had something similar. How did you find were you nervous taking this on? Did you feel like this was a natural fit? Did you feel like you could handle all this? Do you now feel like you can handle all this?
um, yes, good questions. When we first started, I had experienced teaching before. I had taught basically like 3 and up. So I wasn't really familiar with babies, but I had a baby. So I was like, it can't be so hard, like, we'll just create something where we can, jump around. And our first classes look nothing like they do now. Like, we are very like seated, and they were all like, the order was sort of mushed together. And, but we brought our girls to class, which was very difficult at times because, we'd have to deal with, are they fed? Have they nursed? We were both nursing at the time. So we would be teaching, and like Sarah would have to be like, I'm sorry, I got a nurse right now. And I would like, keep jumping around. But I think the struggles of doing that and having our kids was what made us successful, because parents saw that and they were like, wow, like, you guys are doing this and taking care of your kids, and you're doing a great job, And I think since then, our kids are older. I actually now have 3 kids, which is bonkers. And I think that the juggling like is a daily thing, because today at one point I was like, this day is overwhelming. And I was like, like, it's too much. And I could tell from 10 o'clock that it was just going to be too much for today. But that's okay. I feel like that happens on a daily basis, and you sort of just have to like reset. I also am beyond grateful for my business partner, because if this was like a solo operation,
Mhm.
it would have been long, long gone, because it's not possible to do something like this on your own. So my business partner she's the best. Like, we're the best of friends, but really I've had 2 children since we started the class. So juggling like taking time off, and then just, sometime if I'm radio silent when all of our teachers are talking, she like knows that obviously there's a diaper explosion or something's happening. And, she doesn't wait around for me to respond. She just like takes initiative, and, I sort of do the same for her. So we have a nice balancing act, but I knew that when I started.
We had a business consultant when we started our business. There's 4 partners at Manhattan Valley, and I remember her saying, I was saying, I can't do this. Like I have a 1-month-old. I can't dedicate the time necessary. And she said, that's okay. You don't have to. Your 3 other partners will hold this leg of the journey up. And
Yeah.
in some other period of time, they'll pass the baton to you because they'll have a family emergency or they'll have a baby or they'll have some need and you will hold the baton for that period and you will, carry the weight at that period. And it was hard to believe at the time it was ever going to happen. And yet since then, 2 other partners had babies. So things have happened. And that is exactly how it works. So having that faith and having that person you can lean on, I think I agree, what allowed us to do our business, certainly, because I don't know how one person could do all of this, but do you have any tricks, in terms of, do you do your business work when they go to bed? Like, how do you balance spending time with them, getting your work done, sleeping, shower? Yeah.
It's hard. I would only say that, my kids are used to this schedule. So I don't have a nanny. I don't have full-time help. I actually rely on our teachers as babysitters because we want to give them pretty full-time work if we can, so they don't leave us to find restaurant jobs. And so my kids have like different babysitters all the time, which is also super fun for them because they're not stuck with the same person. They have lots of energy, like young, energetic people. So I feel like that helps, but it's not all the time. But my kids are sort of used to, like, if today, like, we are going to look at a class and we're going to take pictures and that's going to be it. And if I feel like my daughter needs to know the schedule ahead of time. So I think hearing the schedule and she's like, okay, I know that you're going to work and then we're going to the playground. And then, I feel like for her, it helps to have it all laid out. My son does not nap anymore. He stopped napping at exactly 3 years old. And it's been like 5 weeks and I want to like scream. It's so difficult because that was my big chunk of work time. But now, I mean, we have nights where Saturday night, Sarah and I were up till midnight on a call together, putting together our schedule. And it's like, when you own your own business, it's just, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you have to have like super late nights and you have to be like, that's okay. I'm just going to plow through it. And then hopefully tomorrow night we can get to bed earlier. But we're doing this all by ourselves and we don't have anyone helping us or working. So it's really hard. It's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's not an easy business. It's not easy having 3 kids. But the joy of going to class and seeing our teachers and going to a princess class like we had on Saturday where all these princesses were in the park. I mean, it's just so magical. It makes me want to cry. I love it. So if you love what you do, I feel like the late nights and juggling kids and no naps and all that stuff, it's worth it.
I think it's also a little bit like being creative in the sense that, like, we recently, did way too much TV with our children historically. And as a pediatrician, it's like embarrassing for me to say that, right? But we decided, like, why are we like doing TV at night when the kids are like, I just got home, they want to see me, but there's zombies in front of the TV. Like, why don't we just not do TV at night? And that gives us a half an hour of quality time. And that felt better than like 3 hours of some TV and some, like that other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And my new thing is I'm really trying to work on putting the phone down more, which is very hard as a business owner. It's hard, I think, for all of society right now.
Super hard. It's super hard.
I feel like if you can be more engaged when you're with them, you can condense more into a shorter period of time. That's quality, and then have a little more time to do the work somewhere else. I don't know if you find that helpful, in terms of what you've been doing.
Yeah, I think it's hard because we have like 22 teachers now, and a lot of like little stuff comes up, and it needs to be like attended to really quickly. So I feel bad. And then I feel bad if I'm on the phone all the time, but it's really hard if we miss an email or something, or we're dealing with, over Halloween, we had 20 events that weekend. And it's like, I have to be on my phone the whole time. I've got to, make sure the teachers, but I do feel like I create special moments like you're saying, so you can try to really engage with our kids. And I feel like that like fills their cup up of like mom time. Right. And then you can sort of step away. But we also don't
need to hire someone to do some of that at some point. Like,
during my maternity leave, we had someone working on like birthday parties, and doing payroll and stuff, the things that I am responsible for. It was great. It was helpful. But it's hard as business owners to be like, I can do it. So why am I paying someone? Like, should I watch TV at night and enjoy myself, or should I just do, the emails
See,
instead of
I constantly am like, this is not
oh,
what I've been trained to do. I should
no,
stay in my lane and
no.
hire someone else to do the other lane. This is not, they can't do my part, and I don't want to have to do that part. But
Yeah.
it's definitely a work in progress. What
Yes.
what is your favorite part of being a business owner? What makes you glad you did it?
So it's funny. This is my favorite part right here. I love being able to pay people. Which sounds so funny, but it is like I also do payroll, and it's just like it was more exciting to like write a check. I
Mhm,
love that, like
mhm.
writing a check. But as performers, it's really hard to get work, and it's hard to get solid work. And I was a professional ballerina, and I did like a whole bunch of random jobs before this. And my business partner, Sarah, was like a music songwriter, and she also did like extra work and did some commercial work. So it's hard to book. It's hard to book jobs, and also jobs that are flexible. So all of our teachers are amazing performers, but if they get a contract, like my babysitter slash teacher got a contract and she started last week and she's gone for 5 weeks, we have to be like, okay, that's great, have fun. And to have that business that allows people to like come and work for us. And I don't know, I just love being able to give people work. I spent my entire career going to auditions and, trying to get work. And now I'm on the other end, and it is so exciting. That's the best part.
Pretty cool. I would have never
Being in
thought of
class
that.
with the kids, but really on the business side of things, um, I love that. I
That's
love all of
great.
our teachers. They're super talented.
I also like for us that, I haven't been doing medicine for so long, but I've been practicing for 16 years, whatever. And it definitely challenges a different part of your brain to figure out how am I going to do payroll and what is good in terms of advertising and marketing and how am I going to run an office and how do you do hiring? And it's been kind of fun to challenge, I think, a different part of my brain. It's been a very different learning curve.
Mhm.
And then I worked a lot with my therapist because of all my anxiety and guilt about doing it, with her saying, you are
Yeah.
setting a great example for your kids. Look what you've done. You've made something that wasn't there. You made something. You made a company, a space, and and so that I kind of lay in bed at night and think, okay, my girls are going to see that, their mom could start a business and could keep it going. And so I kind of like that we show that to our kids. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. Um, yeah, I really hope that, my kids see me starting a business, but also the continuing to run the business, I think is the biggest thing, because anyone can start a business. I've actually started a whole bunch of like random side businesses before this was successful. So I feel like the continuing to run through all the challenges, through having 3 kids, through like, COVID and all these things, I think the perseverance is, I feel like, most proud of.
So speaking of, you said the word before I did. Speaking of
Yes.
COVID,
Yeah.
tell me how was COVID for you guys? We just to give you the one liner, we opened in April of 2020. So we
Mhm.
literally opened our business the month everybody else shut down. So I think COVID really
Bonkers.
presented some, very odd challenges for those of us, who are trying to run a business. So how did you guys pivot during COVID?
So when COVID hit, we sort of, yeah, we had to shut down like right away. At one point, Sarah was like, I'm afraid we're going to kill someone's grandma. I was like, what? Because, she was afraid that a grandma was going to come to class and then get sick. And I was like, we need to shut down. So we shut down right away. And I moved out of the city for a very long time. Sarah actually stayed here because she owns her apartment. And we moved everything online, which was great because I think it helped a lot of our students who used to come to class, every week, see our faces. It was sort of hard on the other end as a teacher because, your kid would like go off screen and you're like, are you still here? And like dancing, and you have no idea like if the child is like standing there, if they're like in the bathroom. So, that was hard, challenging in itself just to move everything online. We had to get rid of all of our staff. We kept on 3 of our teachers who were international students here. So they weren't able to go home and they weren't able to get any government aid. So we basically taught 5 classes online and did story time every day and got donations to pay those teachers. So they were able to, ride basically the wave until they were able to go home. After that, we sort of pivoted because we moved everything back into the park. So I think our business did really well because we started in the park. We started in Sarah's backyard with 4 kids and a bag of shakers. And so it was really easy for us to take everything out of the studio and go back into the park. I think a lot of other companies were nervous about sound system and how they're going to tote their props over. And, Sarah and I used to load our stroller up with all of our props. And we used to have these colorful pinwheels that would show people where class was. So we were like, oh, park, no problem. So we sort of blossomed during COVID because we were in the park. Sarah and I were in the park with our 3 teachers who stayed here. And we sort of were just everywhere. We did 4 classes in a row and no one else was really in the park yet. So it really helped us. And then we started to do princess birthdays. And I feel like that moment that we added a costume to our class, it became this magical thing. And I don't think a lot of people offer that. I think a lot of companies, there are a few companies that do it, but it's more they do magic and they have princess that comes, but we do a whole big magical set where it really feels like Elsa is in the park with you. So I think those outdoor birthdays, which everyone was sort of, moving from rented spaces to outdoor parties, and they wanted to make it more than a picnic blanket because, people were not seeing their friends. And then when they were seeing their friends, they were with masks and stuff. So I think having a princess, even with masks, we had, fully masked princesses at birthdays, I think that really helped us explode, which I really, really couldn't believe when we were doing all the online stuff that we would ever survive. I was like, how many months are we going to make no money? Can we survive? Why do people care about our faces anymore? But they did. And they, I saw someone recently who I hadn't seen in a couple of years. And she said, you saved COVID for me. And I was like, what? I'm like, I feel like it was so exhausting and no one appreciated, but they did. And those videos, some of them are still up online now of our classes. And it meant a lot to people. It meant more than
I think people needed something. I think that I just remember playing with my kids on our roof. There was no one in our building. Our roof was totally empty. I was like, how many times can we have a water gun fight on this roof? So I think that people needed some joy for them, but for their kids, it felt like you were taking away so much from your kids. But I'm sure your class felt like such a joyful give back to the kids for parents. It's funny because when we opened, we were then COVID hit and we're like, we have no patients. Everybody left the city and everyone put off all checkups, put them off for months because you didn't want to bring patients and you didn't have to. And we're looking at each other saying, we are going to be a business that fails in the first 3 months that we're open. There's just no way.
Yeah.
We brought over minimal staff because we had just opened. We hadn't hired yet. We were working out of a temporary space. We weren't really paying rent on until our space was ready. Mm-hmm. And then we got in our space and we said, we're not full. How can we help the community? We can give COVID vaccines to everybody, to the, guy on the street who doesn't have a doctor, down to the grandma, to the kid. Well, those weren't out yet, initially. We can do COVID testing for anybody who wants it so that grandma can see her kids. And it allowed us to kind of actually build a business during COVID when I felt like so many other businesses went the other way. And I feel like you kind of had a similar experience that if you were able to pivot and think outside the box, you could actually grow your business during COVID.
Yeah. And what was great about our business, which I feel like we are never going to change this model, but we don't rent physical space. We rent it by the hour. So we have contracts with spaces, but it's only by the hour. I think a lot of businesses had like insane rent that they were having to cover on a monthly basis during COVID. So I think it was hard, but our business, we only pay basically when we have class. So it kind of works. And then the park, it's free. You're in the park. So
Do you
it's
have to
great.
get
You can
permits
have
or
more
anything,
people.
or you can just do it? I don't even know how it works.
Yeah. So
Maybe I shouldn't
technically,
ask that. Maybe that's like secret.
no, the parks department's like, "Rah, rah."
Exactly. I'm sure they're watching us. We're looking to see if they can catch something.
We do a lot of big events for the Central Park Conservancy every year. So I think we're good. But in general, if you're throwing an event in the park, you can have up to 25 people and you don't need a permit. And then if it's more than that, you're supposed to get online. And I think it's like $25 to have a permit for like the exact time and day. But
Who's the most popular princess?
who is the most popular? Elsa. Elsa will always be the most popular.
Maybe not always, but I feel like it's just not going away.
I know. When Encanto came out, we bought those costumes the second we could. I think Sarah, like, I left the movies and she like called me and she was like, I already purchased Isabella. I'm like, oh my goodness, like calm down.
Right.
It was great. Like that has been since it came out to like now, it's just every birthday, it's like that and Elsa. So we'll have like, Mirabelle and Elsa.
Well, that's cute. We just got
Yeah.
back from Disney a month ago, and I don't know if you know, but they put Elsa in Epcot, not in Magic Kingdom.
Oh
So
no, I do
you're
know that.
forced to go all the way to Epcot, or your 4-year-old will literally have the worst Disney experience ever. So that was us like schlepping all the way to Epcot just to basically meet Elsa when we could have just done it in the park with you.
You could have
Now you tell me.
So today, because everyone was off from school, we had Elsa like everywhere. She had all of her magic. We had like 4 locations of Elsa going on at the same time. Like I kid you not. We were in Washington Square Park. We're in Sun Place Park. We're like on
What
the
does she
Upper
do?
Side.
What does she do with them?
So we do her full class, but she's Elsa.
So she
So
comes to class.
she is the teacher of class.
Ah,
So we'll have
pretty
Elsa, and
amazing.
it's just Elsa. We'll have like Elsa and her like helper, or like Anna, her sister, will be there. So we do our whole musical set, and then we'll add in, of course, like Let It Go, and she'll just like fully sing Let It Go, and all the kids are like up there performing with her. It's magical. So it's great. We add that to birthdays, and I mean, really, I feel like we didn't have this when Ella was younger, but she would have died if she had Elsa at her birthday. Carter's birthday was in September, and we had one of our teachers who had a Spider-Man costume, and he like sent us a picture, and he was like, hey, like if you ever need, I have this costume I did during COVID, like drive-bys for people's outside their homes. He like would be Spider-Man. And I was like, this is amazing. Come to my son's birthday tomorrow. And he was like, okay. So, I had Spider-Man at Carter's birthday, and he has not stopped talking about Spider-Man since. And it's so fun. I mean, I don't know when he would have ever had a chance to meet like the real Spider-Man, as they call
Well,
it.
if it helps you in any way, my husband bought an inflatable dinosaur costume for Halloween, and it makes noises, and we went to Boo at the Zoo, and people thought he worked there. So if you ever want him to come, you just let me know. I'll send him
Wait,
over.
I want that costume. We've done like 3 dinosaur parties, which is so funny. Because it's like boys. Like I think Spider-Man's great now for boys, but someone was like, we need dinosaurs. And I was like, I'll find you a dinosaur. And so we got these like really cute, like snuggly dinosaur costumes. And it's been like a big hit. I love them. They're so cute. And any teacher who wear it, like it's just amazing. So yeah, we do everything. Anything you can imagine, we can make it come true.
That's amazing. Do you ever regret starting your own business? Do you ever say, how did I get myself here?
No, never. Because I also wanted a business where I could stay home with my kids. And that was really important to me. As a performer, there's a limited time that you can, especially as a ballerina, there's a very limited time to like be on the top of your career. And I think, like when you turn like in your 30s, I think that's like, you're peaking sort of, it's like at the end. So for me, starting this was just like super successful, like natural transition. And, when Sarah and I teach together, which isn't very often, she actually teaches like full time, and I sort of do the behind the scenes, although she does all the behind the scenes as well. But when we were performing together, like I feel like I'm on stage again, which is so fun. So it sort of, I'm able to continue to be a performer, I feel like, for the rest of my life. And hopefully Sarah and I are like bopping around in our 80s together. But
I know you've kind of grown with your kids' ages. You've kind of
yeah.
added in as they've grown. Do you think you'll be able to continue that?
Yes, we hope to. We're doing like an older like gymnastics ballet party, which again, I feel like someone just requested it. So we're like, sure, like we can create that for you. So I feel like as our kids get older, we might sort of morph more into parties, which 7 and 8 year olds, I don't even know what they like, but we'll sort of figure it out.
Do you
We
think your kids are
also,
gonna get embarrassed by you at some point? Like, do you think they're not because of what you do, just because 'cause they're kids? Like, I'm sure my kids
no,
were already embarrassed.
100%. I had like the musical set at my son's birthday as well, and with Spider-Man, and all of my daughter's friends were like jumping in and bopping around, and Ella was like, I am way over this. She was like, this is not for me. She was like, this is babyish. And I'm like, look at all your other friends. Like they like it. And she was like, no way. So I think I have already hit the embarrassing mom
Oh, yeah.
phase in our relationship, like way too soon. I feel like it's supposed to be like 10,
I know,
but
but everything happens earlier now, so it's
oh,
very age appropriate. It's
I
very sad,
know.
isn't it?
It's very sad. It's
Um,
Yeah, it's really sad. But now we're like finding other non-embarrassing things to do together. You
I'm
know,
gonna, ask you a few questions that have come in from
sure.
the audience, and then I'll go back 'cause I have a few other things I wanna pick your brain on, but I wanna make sure we get to everyone's questions. Thanks for writing them into us, everyone. So one question from Allie is, "Where in the city are your classes?" So I think you briefly alluded to you have a few locations, but maybe you could go into a little more detail.
We are in Central Park and Riverside Park right now. We're in Sutton Place Park. We're in Washington Square Park and Carl Schurz Park. So basically, like all over the Upper East and Upper West Side, we have classes outside. Our winter session, we just released it today, and it's a lot of hard work to go into all of that. But we are opening up some new indoor locations. We had really secure locations before COVID, but those all sort of fizzled out. So we're going to be at a couple churches on the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side. And our home location in the 72nd Street is called Momentum Fitness. We have a lot of classes there. And then we're at like a few ice cream shops, which we've had to be creative during COVID to look for spaces. So we're at like 16 Handles on 82nd Street. We're at A La Mode, which is in the 50s near First Avenue. So we sort of, have spread out on both sides of the park, and we're moving inside, hopefully being as successful as we have been outside. But all the information is like on our website for all of our locations.
Perfect. And in terms of the kind of breakdown of the classes, I think that I know there's ballet, there's gymnastics, there's Carters.
Yeah, that's
I
like
think I picture Carters being like parkour, like this hardcore, like
I mean, yeah, that it needs to morph into that. I feel like
is there anything I'm
so
missing
much
in terms
energy.
of the general topic? I mean, obviously they meld different things, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, we do. Yeah, music and movement. We do music and ballet, which is very similar. Music and acro, and then we do ballet, which ballet is sort of like a middle ground between something that is like a serious dance school and then something where you're just like running around in a tutu. We sort of try to have a ballet class which is encourages the love of movement, which I don't like to be too strict. I created the program and I don't want kids to ever feel like stressed out while dancing. But I also want them to be able to listen and pay attention and follow directions. So sort
And
of
for
that.
kids, in terms of this is not a question from the group, but I have to, as a pediatrician, shove it in there.
Yeah.
Um, kids who have any developmental delays, can you help work with that? Can you,
Mhm.
have some flexibility there?
Yeah, of course. We
or, physical delays, just any kind of, those kinds of impairments.
Yeah, we've had a couple students, and we actually have done like a few classes through a partnership on the east side that's now since closed, but we've done a few classes where we have more sensory based like props that we use. And if anyone comes into class and their child is like, oh, they need to work on their balance, or I feel like we got a line like, oh, my child's not used to being with other kids. I was like, oh, that's okay. Like, we're all just here to like have fun. And we've had incidents where like, kids have hit other kids and things like that. But, that only happens, I feel, when parents aren't like around. I think that our classes are great because the teachers are able to like jump in and help any situation out. And we actually have started to work with an occupational therapist, Samantha Levine, and she is fabulous and does these sensory bins. And so we've done a few classes with her where she will do our class and then she brings out these sensory bins, and we sort of just all like sit on the floor together and just explore different rice and goo and water and things like that. So I think it's great. We just completely just, want to expand. And she approached us and we were like, this is fabulous. This is great. This can only benefit everyone, even if they need extra help, it benefits everyone.
And Allie wanted to know, do you group the classes by age?
Yes. So most of our classes are we have like open classes, which are like 3 months to 3 years in age. And then we'll also have like baby classes, which are specifically for babies. And after like that, we sort of, all of our princess pop-ups are sort of mixed ages. We'll have siblings come. So we'll have like a 3-month-old baby, and then we'll have like a 6-year-old come. And I feel like no matter the ages, they're all getting something out of it. I think the baby classes are great because you're able to meet other moms who have, babies between the ages of 3 months and 18 months. And so that like you'll go to class and you'll be able to create that sort of community with other moms, and your child will get to see another baby, which I think is important for some kids. But also it's really awesome to have like even my son, like he'll go to class and he'll see all the other kids like jumping around. And that is so beneficial because they're seeing not only a parent like jump around or their parent trying to entertain them, but, a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, like they're going to learn from them and figure out how to like interact with them and find their space, crawling forward. And also the 3-year-old needs to pay attention to the 3-month-old. So I think it's good to have a mixed ages in class. That's what we do.
And Brian wants to know, are your teachers available for extracurricular work? I'm not sure what he has in mind. Brian, if you want to give us more details, private parties, events, one-on-one lessons. Oh, that's a cool question. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. So we are, okay. Our teachers, yes, our teachers are fabulous. They're all like, I say that they're Broadway style performers. They are so awesome. And they also book lots of work. So yes, they are available. They do birthdays for us almost every weekend if they're free. We'll use them whenever they can. We started working with after school programs. So some of them are working on after school programs, doing like more ballet. But they are free. If you're interested, they're so great. But we also do one-on-one lessons. We had one of our teachers did like a private for this 8-month-old for like 3 months. And it was like this little 8-month-old and our teacher, and they would, bop around together as much as the 8-month-old could. But that was amazing. We also do like private groups of kids. If you have like a friend, you want to get like a little group together. We love those classes because it just is such a fun environment to have a class with all friends. We hope that all of our classes, everyone becomes friends, but to start off with having the kids know each other, it's really fun.
So it sounds like you have a few different themes for birthday parties, right? You could do Spider-Man, you could do dinosaurs, you could do princesses. If somebody wants something, if they say, I want to do astronaut theme. They have something they kind of, that's what their kids into. Can you work with them?
Yes, 100%. We have like an email that goes out that says like, these are the princesses we have. We have like Anakin Skywalker on that list too, because someone requested that. And then at the bottom, it always says, if you don't see anything on this list that you like and you have another idea, like we're 100% on board,
I
So
think
I feel
you
like we're
should.
just expand our costume department.
I think you should rent our space on the weekend sometimes
Ooh,
and do, like a doctor theme one. I think some kids will be terrified, but some kids are super into doctor stuff. Like that's what they want to do. I have like this one kid in mind who like that
funny.
would be her like dream birthday party. Wouldn't that be kind of cool?
It would be really cool. And for kids who are like not so into doctors, I
You could
feel like
like warm them up.
help
Yes.
them and warm them up.
All right,
Yeah.
we're going to talk offline about this. Everyone doesn't have to hear this, but I think it's
No, I love it. I also like we do pop-ups in like crazy weird locations too. And because I think that it helps like you're saying, like doctor's office. We've done like dental like events too. It just gets people like in the doors. But I like the doctor theme. We
Yeah, and
always
our
do
space is
fun
really
little.
great, and we don't use it on Sundays. Like, it would be a nice marriage. So we'll talk.
I love
So
it.
Jed wants to know any plans to expand to other cities. So you are in some other cities, I think, and you have plans. Do you want to talk about what they are? And
Oh, so we have like a partnership up in Pelham, New York, that we work with a fabulous like team of two moms actually. So we work with them. It's called Tig and Peach. And then we've done like events in Eastchester and things like that in Scarsdale. We are in New Jersey for the first time this year, which is,
where are you in Jersey?
I don't know. Now you're like telling me on the top of my head. I don't know.
No,
Jersey.
it's
I'm
like northern Jersey, though, like by the city.
yeah,
Or
it's
okay.
very close. It's very close.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter the name of the city. You're kind of like around New York City itself.
Around New York. Yes. We expand a little bit past.
Would you ever dream of going like big, like opening in DC and opening in Chicago? Would you ever dream of like
This, yeah, if you think about my dream for what this business is,
Mhm.
I feel like it has taken us a while, meaning like, 6 years, not so long, but like conquering the Upper East and the Upper West Side. I feel like a lot of people know us. It's very fun. So I feel like expanding past that, yes, we are opening in LA next month, which is
Oh,
really
that's
exciting.
amazing.
Yeah. My best friend lives there and she just had her daughter, Zoe. So she's going to be opening our LA operations. It's taken Sarah and I a very long time to create the perfect class, the great formula. During COVID, I forgot to mention, we created training videos, which were like, duh, like the whole time we've been, paying people to come and train with us or paying our teachers to train teachers. But during COVID, we're like, oh, we can like put this on video and just send it out and have them learn it. So, all these like learning curves that we've done. So now we have a training video and now we have a perfect formula for class and the props that we need for class. And now we have princess costumes. So I think that can be like easily transferred. And our first place is LA.
Traveling a lot, man. That Elsa better get used to it. She's gonna be traveling back and forth across the country now.
We have so many Elsa costumes. We got them all. I know. So LA is our first stop because I really needed someone that I could fully trust with our business. And also I cannot have my hands in LA at all. Like I don't want to get a call from a studio or a teacher in a panic because the door is locked. Like I can't. I have too much stress. I know where my limit is, and that's my limit. So she's going to take on all of it, which I think is hard to find a person like that in a whole bunch of cities. So I have one person so far, but we'll see. I feel like it's now easy. I'm saying this after all the hard work. It's now easy to pick different places because I have a big expansion plan. I want Juliette and Ella's Playdate to be everywhere.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I would love that.
So also from Jed, he wants to know, do you have any additional advice to parents scared to create a startup because of needing stability in their family life and finances?
Yes. That is a really good question. So starting your own business, everyone always says that you shouldn't start another business until you're financially able to take care, of what you're making in your prior job and stuff like that. I would say for me, it was a bit different because I was a performer. So the work was not consistent. And I felt lucky to have this job where I saw a future and um, saw, it going somewhere. But if someone is just starting off with a business, um, I don't know, it's hard. I feel like you need the support of a spouse or a partner if you had them, financially. Um, yeah,
I
it's
think
really
it's finding
hard.
a little bit what your definition of stability is too, right? I
Yeah,
mean, we want to be able to feed our families, right? So I think like there is some degree of we have to have a certain amount of
yeah,
income to be able to get by, or savings, or a spouse.
yeah,
But I think I would say if you love something and it's really what you want to dedicate your time to, there is some leap of faith there. And maybe you do have to sacrifice vacations for 2 years and not go to the theater or not eat out at the new restaurant. And, I think if you can make ends meet enough that you can live with some basic comfort zone, if you can handle the anxiety of not knowing the outcome, I think it's worth doing. I
I
mean,
know.
I think
Handling the anxiety though, right? That's
I mean, yes, there is some degree of, I'm not gonna sleep because I'm not even because I'm doing my work, but I'm gonna worry, is this business gonna succeed? But I love owning a business, and I would encourage anyone who thinks they have the idea and the work ethic and can get by to do it. I think there's nothing like investing in yourself, in terms
I
of
agree. And I also would say that if you fail at the first business, then just try something else. Because I think it's hard if you I feel like as a performer, again, I've gotten so much rejection in my life. So it was easy for, I had two other businesses that just sort of didn't do well. I wouldn't call them failures, but they fizzled out. So, if you're going to start something and it doesn't do well, then just do something else. And
That's my
also,
like, hardest part of being a business owner is I feel like I've had to develop a very thick skin. There's a lot of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Let's
yeah,
try this. Oh, no one not and the business is fine, but let's try
yeah,
offering this class or this whatever. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, for me, it's so hard to not take it as a personal failure and just be like, then that wasn't the right time and place for this part of the business. Let's pivot and do this. And so I think having a little bit of a thick skin can
yeah.
help.
I mean, it's hard to get that skin, but
Yeah,
I feel like it's
painful.
I feel like kids help too because kids are like beyond honest, right? They'll tell you.
I also think you mentioned having a partner in the beginning, and I think I'm very lucky in that my partners are very different than me. I'm kind of like the fiscally conservative one, and I never mind putting in the extra hour of work. And then we have somebody who's really creative, and she kind of is the one who challenges us and says, "Do we want to expand? Let's think outside the box. Let's imagine doing this." And that I think is a really great balancing act to have. So I think if to someone who's thinking about starting a business, if you're thinking about doing it with partners, I think evaluating what you both bring to the table and maybe having a little bit of a balance and not two people who are exactly the same, which I think is what we think we want, someone who thinks just like
Yeah,
us. But I actually think you kind of need the opposite when you start a
yeah,
business.
I agree. And also bouncing the idea off of people that you know and trust.
Right.
Like that's always a good idea.
Right.
They'll tell you if you're crazy. And if they say that and maybe still do the business. But at least you're saying it out loud and sort of getting your
Right.
pitch down, which is good.
The Evans household wants to know, do you offer any virtual classes? So it sounds like you did during COVID. Do you still offer any virtual classes?
We do not. No, we don't right now. For a long time after COVID, we had some private groups. There were sort of like play groups slash homeschool groups that continued on. That Sarah did like arts and crafts, and she would do music and like teach them some sign language, which was super fun. But our business right now is just so busy in person that no, we haven't. It doesn't say in the future we won't, but not right now. Yeah.
And then I thought, as we kind of head towards wrapping things up, it would be I just wanted to pick your brain. You're on the Upper West Side. I wanted to kind of see what you enjoy doing with your kids. I think you live on the Upper West Side, right, Megan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought, families might like to hear. I'm always getting questions in my office, what restaurants do you go to with kids and things like that. So I thought I would ask you, what restaurants do you go to with your kids? Do you find anything that you think is super kid friendly? You have 3 kids. I'm sure it's an
Yeah,
entourage that's coming in, right?
I know. I would say that first of all, parents, I feel like some parents are like, we never go out to a restaurant. And I think because it's like overwhelming and it's not fun. 3 kids at a restaurant. I feel like I have trained my kids from the day that they were born to like, you have to be able to sit at a restaurant. Like I want to go out to a restaurant. So for me, going to a restaurant on the Upper West Side, it needs to not be too loud. It needs to have like stroller parking because I have one of those, obnoxiously big strollers. And it needs to have like coloring sheets for kids. So on the Upper West Side, I found that Playa Betty's has like a really good kids menu and they have great coloring sheets. I have like 100 of them for my daughter. But the thing is, recently they've been blasting their music so loud that I feel like my daughter doesn't have any sensory issues, but when she goes into that restaurant, she like holds her ears and she's like, I cannot.
I hold my ears.
I
Like,
know.
I find it loud. Yeah.
It's like so overwhelming. So I've asked them to turn it down. Of course, they're like, we can't do that. So if you're going to go to that restaurant, which I do love, I would suggest sitting outside. They have like nicely heated huts that you can sit at, which is like great. They're stroller friendly. I also like Tecumbe, which is also sort of that same genre of food, but they are just getting their act together. They've just released coloring sheets. So I'm like, this is the place to go.
Do they have a kids menu now? Because they didn't have a kids menu before.
No,
they don't
have a kids menu. And I'm sort of like working with them a bit.
Right.
You need help. You need my help. So I like want to do some events there. And I've talked to like the manager and we're like sort of trying to figure it out. But I feel like they need like a kid consultant because that place is always empty, which is great. I would recommend it because it's always empty. You can always find a table, but we need a kids menu. We need coloring sheets, I also love for pizza. I love Made in New York. Mm-hmm. They just have really awesome pizza. We take it to the park a lot. We'll like have a playground meetup with all of our friends and we'll just order pizza. They also have like a pretty good inside area to sit.
I think I also find that a lot of restaurants that you might not think are kid friendly are okay if you go early. Like if we do 5 to 7, they're much more, accommodating than if you're going in at 7 when I feel like they're kind of starting to get busy. I love Crave with my kids, which is kind of very high end, I realize, for kids.
Yeah, but
they have a kids menu. I think the food is great, the wine is good. Yes. And my daughter, my older one, loved it. And so we had her birthday. The 3 of us went to her birthday there before Cammie was born. And we had said, we're coming in, you'll notice us because we are going to have like, Penny was into this like big unicorn headband. We'll be the unicorn family. And when we arrived, 2 of the front 2 people who greeted you had taken placemats and rolled them into unicorn horns and were wearing them for her. And I was like, you just won my heart. Like we will bring her here for the rest of our lives because
I know that makes such a big difference. Oh, I love that.
But we also are really good when we go out about packing coloring books and, books to read and, little games and kind of being very prepared as, they're waiting for their food. I'm trying to think where else we go.
I also would say that if you're at a restaurant and your kids are like being annoying, like you have to take them home. Like the people who are at the restaurant, like they don't have to follow you.
Well, that's the nice thing about going at 5 o'clock. Like no one's at the restaurant, so they're not annoying anyone. Good enough to eat's actually really good for kids, like early in the evening or a late lunch. I think Belladonna on the Upper West Side, like further up, it's kind of a little further up, is also pretty good.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty accommodating and they, a lot of these places they don't have kid menus there, I don't think, but their food's pretty.
But if you always ask, like, can you make noodles with butter or something? Or if they don't have a kids menu, I always just tell them what I want. And I feel like they're always accommodating, especially up here. Like everyone has kids. So
what is your go-to parks with them?
My go-to parks. So we love
because of your classes. I don't know. Maybe you don't have a favorite park.
Oh, I feel like park or playground. I feel like my kids
playground. I mean, I probably playground.
My kids love the playgrounds. I feel like any playground is good if you are prepared. I feel like you need chalk. You need like water stuff if you're going in the winter. I mean, in the summer, you need some like cars, enough to share with a friend, which I have learned recently. So you can like play with someone else. If you just bring like a few cars, like everyone comes to you. But we love Elephant Playground and River Run, which is in Riverside Park. Those are great playgrounds for like I would say the only 2 kids who are participating, my 2 kids, my 3 and my 7-year-old, they both can be entertained for hours there. The school playground, like Tecumseh on 77th, they love that one. They call it the Meadow Park. In Central Park, we love Diana Ross. For me, is like a working playground. Like I
Is
can
Anna Ross
go there.
93rd? What is it? Is Anna Ross 93rd?
No,
And
it's
then
81st.
84th? Okay.
It's 81st. And it's actually like not a super great playground, but I feel like they keep having pieces missing. I'm like, what? Wait, where did the ramp go? Like, where did the slide go? I'm like, what's going on? Every time I'm there, I'm like, there's less things. But the playground is great because I can sit on a bench and see the
Mhm.
whole thing. So my son will go crazy and like run on playgrounds, and I'm like, have you like run out? But at this playground, he's there and I can see him, and that playground will forever be like amazing. I can nurse at the playground. I can pull up my laptop and do work, which I do a lot. He'll like run around and I'm like doing 2 hours of, like admin work. We also love like all the playgrounds going up in Central Park. We love Toll Playground in 84th, and then Safari Playground. I think it's called the 93rd. That's the best, like the
Have you been
ultimate.
to the new one, our new favorite? I love the one on 93rd and Central Park, and I love River Run. River Run's like our go-to. I love that river. I love it. But have you been to the new playground on 104th in Amsterdam yet?
No.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. They have like tunnels, like almost like hamster tunnels, and like it's like a gear. It's really cute. I highly recommend it.
Wow.
They have a lot of different stuff I haven't seen at the other parks.
Okay.
That's like our new go-to.
Oh, I love that. No, we have not been. I feel
How
like
about
we're sort of veering.
working your way up?
Yeah, I mean, like we go over to the east side and sort of scope out new things. But I mean, my
How
kids,
about favorite thing to do with your kids on a rainy day? Where do you have anywhere to take them? I don't mean favorite thing in the house. I mean anywhere to go with
yeah.
them.
So I would say the Museum of Natural History is
Yeah.
amazing because they can just wander the halls and you can spend a whole day there. You can bring a lunch, you can go eat, you can
And they're
do,
really tolerant. There's a lot of empty
yeah.
open space they can kind of run and make up their own games that may or may not be inspired by
Yes.
the museum. I agree. That's like our big become a member and go there
We can
constantly.
remember. I know it's great. I feel like I was there recently though, and my son was being crazy, and someone was like, "Shh, quiet." I was like, "Okay, that's not what we do here." But it was funny. Also, the Children's Museum is great.
Mhm.
Although I feel like every time my kids go there in the winter time, that they always end up sick. So I feel like if you have a child who's like putting a lot of things in your mouth, like maybe not the best place to go. We also go to the shops at Columbus Circle, 59th Street. You can just like wander the halls. You can window shop. The camp store is super fun that opened up. So you can like bring your scooters and do like the little whatever it's called, the scooter ramp thing, and they have like the dance room with all the wallpaper. So that place is really fun. There's also a library on 65th Street, which is fun to do indoors. You can just sit, and if you have a child who likes to sit and read, it's a great idea. I also would suggest basically like going to any big store, and if your child is like learning how to walk, they can like toddle around like Marshalls or Barnes and Nobles. Oh, Barnes and Nobles is a good one for our family because they have the upstairs area. They have all those toys.
Mhm.
My daughter will like take a picture of all of her wish lists for Christmas and and her birthday and random presents that she wants. And they also have like a nice reading area, which has like reopened because of
That's true.
COVID.
Yeah, that was tough during COVID. I agree.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about living? Because you live where you work in a lot of ways, right? Like you must run into families that you have been in class with, and you must run into them at restaurants
Yes.
and in the park. How do you feel about that?
Um, so in the beginning, when I was teaching all the time, it would happen all the time. I felt like a little like I can't scream at my kids, like they're looking at me. But everyone is a parent and everyone needs to raise their voice at their children, time to time. But in general, I love seeing all the parents. Like, if someone during COVID, I was at the playground on 67th in Central Park, and a dad was like, "Oh, like, are you Maegan?" And I was like, yeah, like I for sure like had never seen this child. And he was like, we saw you on the computer during COVID. And he like called over his two children and we're like, this is Miss Maegan. Like you did ballet with her. And I was like, that is so sweet.
Isn't it the
Makes
best
me feel,
feeling?
huh?
Isn't it the best feeling?
Oh, it's the best feeling. These kids like are so cute and they're they think that you're amazing. And, when our teachers are performing in the parks, like everyone is like applauding and, they look up to them so much. But in general, I think I love running into parents. If you see me, ask a question about class. I love it. I'll tell you anything. I'll hand you a business card. I've been like bringing my little baby and I'll, watch classes and I'll just walk up to like anybody who's with a child, like anywhere around class. And I'll be like, hi, like, here's my card. So I feel like I'm still like, reeling people in, but I love.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. People ask all the time because certainly if I'm out, I'll get medical questions. There's no doubt. But I feel like if you don't like it, then don't live where you work. I happen to love it. I think that for us, we're a very modern office, but I really wanted the feel of like an old school, like doctor who visits your home. I'm not visiting anyone's home, but I can get that feel by running into the families out. They know my kids. They've met Penny. They've met Cammie. They know that I'm living the same life they are. I go to these places and I love it. I love running into them. I think it gives a really different feel to medical care, to like a business interaction in a world where everything's becoming a little more distant, a little more text and a little more, virtual and a little more. This is a way that we can connect. We can see these families somewhere else. And I love that part of living up here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. See them also in their struggles when I'm trying to get my kids out of the playground, they're also doing that too. So,
So on a different topic, and we're wrapping up, what's next for Maegan Woodin? What's next for, Juliette and Ella's Playdate?
So we're going to expand to LA, which is super exciting. And then we're also, I'm saying this like super cautiously because it hasn't been like announced, but we're going to start a YouTube channel, which I guess someone asked earlier if we're doing any virtual. I guess this would be in that realm. We're going to be doing virtual baby music and ballet classes, sort of on a YouTube channel. We're going to be learning, teaching sign language to babies, and hopefully just doing like very simple movement for babies to learn on YouTube. So we'll see how it goes, but that's our next big thing. I think we're going to tackle that in the winter when we're a bit slower, business wise. And Sarah and I are just going to be, doing what we do, bopping around on YouTube. So we're really excited about that. I think that's going to be a good next step in our business.
Very cool. Any final words to working parents out there, to people thinking about starting businesses? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would do it. I think it is very rewarding. It's really hard. Your kids, like we talked about, your kids will look up to you and be proud of you. And for your child to say like, I'm proud of your mom, like you're doing a great job. Like that means the world, So I would say do it. Lean on people in your community and like ask for help. And if you have a business partner and, they're able to like step in those moments, that means the world. So I would say do it. Good luck.
Ask me questions. Any last question, I promise, Maegan. Any final words you want us to know about the business, about Juliette and Ella's Playdate? Anything you want people to kind of take away in terms of, your business?
My business. I guess the takeaway for my business is that we have created this really warm and loving environment, movement-based class. Our students and the community that we've built around us means the world to us. If you want us for a princess birthday or a Star Wars or a karate theme, I mean, we're here for you. So we are very creative and we have an awesome team of teachers who work with us. So your dream, we can, make it the reality and put together an awesome birthday for you. So
thanks so much for being on tonight, Maegan. This was really fun. It's really nice to talk to another mom who, I know you do something very different than I do, but I feel like there's a lot of similarities and this has been really fun. So thanks for coming on, and we'll be in touch offline about our doctor.
I love it. It'll be so fun. I love it. Now I'm like thinking of doctor costumes and
it'll be awesome.
I love it. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Thanks. Thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. This was something I feel really passionate about. I love my business. I love being a mom. I love trying to make them both work, sometimes more successfully than others. If anybody has any questions they have after tonight's podcast, you can always reach out to us. Our information is up there. Also, if you haven't seen any of the other podcasts, please look back. There's some really fun information in the previous ones we've done. And thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great night. If you're thinking about starting a business, you can do this. If you're thinking about calling Maegan for some classes, also super cool. And if anything comes up, always reach out. Have a good night.